guys, my name is Jackie. Welcome to The Bite. Today's video, I have my mom with me and we're in my parents' kitchen in San Diego. We're going to be showing you how to make mahshi, which is stuffed squash. We're also going to be stuffing some eggplant, as well as an onion, which is my favorite, and some warak dawali, which is the grape leaves. We actually picked the grape leaves from my parents' garden fresh, and I will insert a clip of how to choose the grape leaves, which one is ideal for stuffing. And so really quickly, let me go over the ingredients with you so you know what you need. So I have some squash. Some of them have already been peeled, and we're gonna be showing you how to, or not peeled, cored. Yeah, we're gonna be showing you how to do that in just a second. We also have some cherry tomatoes that are also from the garden. Not an essential ingredient, but just something that we thought we'd add since we have them in abundance right now. Some rice, an onion. We also have some butter back there and our grape leaves. But the main thing is this green squash, which is, I think, Mexican squash. You can use any kind of squash you want, but this is pretty traditional.
So we're gonna core the inside, and we're gonna save the inside to make
Ejia. We're gonna be making ejia, which is like a zucchini pancake, and actually ejia is normally made with cauliflower, which I learned, I don't know, within the last couple of years. My whole life I thought it was always made with zucchini. But that's how my family makes it, and that's how I enjoy it.
And this is a way to use everything that you have.
Yes.
And not waste anything.
Totally. So show them the matwara real quick. This tool is a vegetable corer. It's called a matwara, but I've also seen, so see how it looks? That you just stick inside the zucchini and scrape off all the edges so that you are left with the inside. You don't want to throw those away. You can, if you don't want to make the ejia with it, which we're going to show you in a separate video, you can just stew them with some garlic and onions, and it's absolutely delicious. So you saw she took off the top and the bottom, and this is what the bottom looks like with the thing still intact. You want to remove that because it's pretty fibrous and it's not very pleasant to eat. And then we'll show you how to core the eggplant. So now we're gonna start coring out the eggplant. You don't have to use mini eggplants. Whoops, you can use a normal size eggplant, but we chose to do the mini ones because they're roughly the same size as the green squash. And one thing I did want to mention is that we wash these very thoroughly. So what my mom does is she takes them and rinses them in water with salt, and that just kind of helps to get the grime off and the dirt. And then she takes a sponge that she uses specifically for vegetables and even sometimes puts a little soap on it and just takes off anything that doesn't look, you know, that you don't want to eat. You just want to make sure that they're very thoroughly cleaned because the skin on the outside can sometimes collect the dirt.
Yeah, they grow on the ground, so you want to make sure that you take a lot of the dirt that could stay on it.
Right.
So when I take the tip of the eggplant out, I try to keep a part of the green around, and this helps me when I'm coring it that it doesn't rip or crack.
Okay, I didn't know that. And she's just gonna put it in a small pot with a little bit of water that she's gonna boil, and I think she's gonna turn this into mtabal or baba ganoush. I have a video of that I actually filmed here in San Diego with my dad, and we're hopefully gonna film fool while we're out here. So yeah, we're just gonna finish these up.
Right. I
rinsed off my rice. You want to make sure that it's rinsed off very well so that the water runs clear, and then we will show you how we stuff them.
Right. Because the tip didn't stay on when I took the core out. As I was coring it, it ripped a little. You try not to do that.
Got you. So even when it's cooking, you can leave the stem on. It's okay. You can you eat this part?
You could if you want to, yeah.
Or you can remove it when you're done eating, but it's good to just as a guide when you're coring it.
Now that we've cored everything, I like to rinse it one more time.
From the inside.
From the inside and the outside.
And this is just getting rid of any little pieces of
the inside.
Yeah.
The pulp.
Now we're going to talk about the preparation of the onion. Stuffed onions are really good because they have like a sweet flavor. So my mom's going to show you.
So you're gonna take the tip of it out, and I'm gonna try to leave some of this on. And what you want to do is you want to cut the onion from the center out, but not all the way. Did you see that? It's just from the center out. I'm gonna take the first peel off. Take it, I'm gonna wash it. And now it's ready to boil. And we boil it just so you can peel every layer.
More easily.
It'll bend.
It's kind of like boiling a tomato or like a stone fruit. If you want to peel it really easily, you do the same kind of thing.
Let it boil for a little bit.
So now it's gonna boil, and she actually keeps, let me show you. Okay, so we actually kept the stem on because it's a lot easier to remove if you leave this intact. But I believe we're gonna cut this off afterwards. So just let it boil until the layers are easily removable. And so because this pot is not covering the entire onion, we just want to kind of turn it periodically to make sure that it's boiling evenly and that every part of the onion is cooked. And then we're going to take a fork and kind of...
This is still hard, so we'll just let it sit.
Alrighty. And so in that same water, we'll show you in just a second, but we have all of our fresh grape leaves here from the garden. And we're gonna boil it in the same water that we boiled the onion because it gives it a nice flavor. It really just flavors the entire pot.
Everything is gonna get cooked in the same pot anyway.
Mm-hmm. So the top part kind of ended up giving us a little bit of a hard time, but we trimmed that part off, and we actually take off layers of the onion as they start to peel away from the core. So I have a couple right here, and these are gonna get stuffed with the same filling that we're gonna use in the squash. So little by little, you just take and peel as the onion kind of lets you.
And if you've ever made stuffed cabbage,
yep,
you almost do it the same way.
Yeah, so you would treat the cabbage the same exact way. I'll show you once we have them all peeled. I mean, it's kind of giving us a hard time, but let me tell you, it is worth it. The flavor of the stuffed onion is like caramelized and just delicious. So now you can see that each layer, and it only took about a minute or so for the first layer to start peeling. Then you let it boil for another minute and allow it to release little by little. See?
It's releasing. So this side needs to be a little bit boiled. The vegetable will tell you when it's ready to be peeled. You can't fight it.
Yeah. We look like we're fighting it though. And then this little piece here on that edge, we can even stick them into the pot themselves. There is a little piece that we can stuff, but I'm going to show you once we peel it.
It's this easy.
Ta-da. See, that is perfect. We're going to keep doing that, and then we'll show you how to stuff it. So we added more water to the pot. We're just waiting for it to boil, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to insert a clip on how to pick grape leaves. We picked these from the garden, so I'm going to insert that right now.
So when you're picking the grape leaves, you want to pick the baby ones or the new ones because they're thinner and they'll be a lot more tender when you cook them. The
bigger
more
ones like this.
Yeah, the mature ones are quite thick. They're a little more leathery.
Okay.
So you don't want to use those.
And you can really feel the difference when you're picking them fresh. You can even see it. This is almost
right
thinner. I mean, you can almost see through it.
Correct. This one, even though it's large, feel how thin it is and soft.
Yeah. So you can really feel that it's less rough.
Right. See, this is a small leaf, but when you feel it, it's a little bit on the thick side. I don't want to use that. And when you're picking them, you want to layer them together. And if you pick it with the very least amount of stem, you don't have to nip them after while you're rolling them.
Okay.
And notice how shiny they are when they're babies.
They are pretty shiny.
So while I'm picking them, I'm making sure that I'm not overdoing every vine. These are okay because there's no grapes on them, but you don't want to expose the grapes and have them touch the sun and you ruin your grapes.
Got you. Let me show you an example. We have some grapes growing right here, and what she was talking about is if you take the upper leaves from up here away and expose them to the sun, it's too harsh on the grapes. So you want to just leave them you know, covered. And these are pretty large leaves anyway, so we wouldn't want to cook with these, but you want to always make sure that the grapes are still covered.
So I stack them in the same direction because we're going to blanch them, and I don't want them to get wrinkled or ruined in the process of blanching. And they're a lot easier to open and roll when they're all in the same stack. So we'll pick some of these fresh tomatoes and add them to the mahshi that we'll be making. And having fresh tomatoes in the mahshi rather than canned tomatoes will give it a nice tang and give it a different flavor.
So the water's come to a boil and we are gonna start adding in our grape leaves. Now they're vibrant green right now, but they're gonna start to change color to more, like almost immediately, look at that, to kind of more of a dull olive green. But when they turn, that's the color that you actually want, and then they're gonna turn an even deeper green when they cook in the pot. So we're looking for them to just kind of get tender, and you don't want to add the entire thing to the pot because you want to make sure that there's room for water to go in between the leaves so that they can all cook. And sometimes the smaller ones will cook faster.
And because these are fresh, you don't know, this is the onion, you don't want to over boil them.
Okay.
But if they're from a can, you probably will have to boil them a little bit more.
How do we know when it's done?
Just sheer color.
That's just a piece from the onion. We use the same water that we use to boil the onion. So
it's flavoring the grape leaves as well.
It is. It's flavoring the grape leaves. It just gives it a kind of a sweetness. And you could use that same water in the pot that you make the mahshi in as well. But today,
we will not do that.
Okay.
We probably will not do that.
You can also use that to water your garden. My parents do that all the time. You just want to make sure that the water's cooled off before you do that. So we're going to boil these, make the hashwe, stuff them, and we're going to show you every process along the way. So now that we have our grape leaves cooked, the vegetables are cored, the onion is peeled, now we can work on the stuffing. So we have our clean rice here, and we have some ground beef, and this is
nutmeg. So you want to put a little bit less nutmeg. What is this? A teaspoon?
Something like that, maybe half a teaspoon. All the measurements will be on my blog.
That's one.
I'm gonna do my best to get these measurements. My mom was telling me, because I was telling her mahshi is kind of difficult. Okay, so wait, this is allspice.
Allspice. So you want to put a little more allspice than you do nutmeg.
Okay.
Okay.
This kind of cooking is really difficult to measure for because the vegetables are all different sizes, the grape leaves are all different sizes.
Depends on how big of a pot you want to cook.
That too.
And this is 7 spices, almost equivalent to the allspice.
Okay. And the 7 spice, depending on the brand, usually does not have salt, but it'll have things like the nutmeg and the allspice, but it'll also have some cinnamon, sometimes cardamom. You'll find, I don't know, a lot of warm spices in there. Each brand has something different. And then just salt and pepper.
Salt. What I want to do is I want to salt this, and I like to just put salt and pepper on the meat, even though it's going to get mixed in. I just like to have just the salt and pepper on the meat.
So you're flavoring every layer, basically.
And this is pepper.
We also have some butter here that we've melted and turned into ghee. And I have, which is semne, and I have a video for ghee, which I will link right up here. And in mine, I usually put a spice in it, and you can totally use that if you make that at home. It gives the dish a beautiful flavor. But we just melted a few tablespoons of butter.
About 3 tablespoons.
Yep, let it kind of boil on the stove a little bit so that the milk solids stick to the bottom. You can use regular butter without doing this step and just melt it.
Right.
But we tend to like the semne. And you know, the stuffing is totally customizable. In mine, I use less salt, and then sometimes I'll use chicken bouillon or like a bouillon cube. Sometimes I will add some cinnamon and not use the 7 spice and just do this minus the 7 spice and just add a magic cube and a little cinnamon to your liking. Just like I say with just about everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
You can make adjustments in any way you want. So traditionally, this meal is made with lamb meat.
Right.
Today we're just using beef.
Ground
and what
beef.
I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break it up.
And actually, our family used to use slices of beef that we cut up into really fine dices. Either way works, but this is a lot quicker. And I think since there's a little more fat in this, it keeps the meat a little bit juicier. And some people even cook the meat before they stuff it.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true.
So each family kind of has their own method.
Now I'm gonna use my hand because
It's just easier to use your hands.
right, rather than making a mess, I'm gonna convert this to a larger bowl.
Okay, so that way we have room to actually mix it. And we mix with our hands. Your hands are the best tools in the kitchen. I stand by that statement. If you want to use gloves, but I like to be able to feel my food.
I like to use my hands as well. This way every little piece will have a piece of meat, and the meat will break up instead of having chunks of meat.
Yeah, it gets mixed in really thoroughly with the rice.
And it's very difficult to do it with a spoon or a fork or anything else.
So we ended up not using the whole thing. And you want to base it on the rice, so they can't really see, but this is kind of what it looks like. So I'm bringing you in closer so that you can see what the mixture looks like. But you see how we took about 3/4 of what we had here, maybe even less than that.
So it's about a pound of meat.
Yeah, about a pound of meat with the amount of rice that we had. Again, all the measurements can be found on the blog.
Now, if you like a lot of meat, you could add it, but we don't. I like to use less meat. This looks like a lot of meat, but because it's hamburger meat, chopped meat, it will melt.
Now we're gonna start the stuffing process for the vegetables. So we have our pot here, and there's a couple ways to do this. You can do this to where the mahshi is inverted, which means we're gonna flip the entire pot over once it's done cooking, which requires less cooking liquid. Or another way, which I grew up doing it, but I think we're not gonna do it that way.
We're not gonna do it this way.
But the way I grew up eating it was we have a lot of liquid in the pot, almost like a soup, like a tomato soup, so that you pour the soup over each piece of mahshi as you eat it. The traditional way is to kind of invert it onto a nice big platter, and that's what we're gonna do today. So the top part is what's gonna be showing. And we're just putting these tomatoes at the bottom, and it's gonna look really pretty when it's inverted.
And I'm cutting it in half so the juices will come out instead of having it burst. And the only reason why we're using these golden tomatoes is because this is what we have in the garden. And so as you can tell, you can use the beef tomatoes.
Yeah, you just slice them up. That's what I do all the time.
So this year we only have an abundance of the cherry tomatoes and these little golden ones. So might as well use them cooking.
Yep.
I think this is good enough for down here. And if there's any little pieces of the onions, I'll put them inside as well. Everything is gonna flavor other flavors.
Everything melts together.
Right. So now that we have this, we're going to do, so this piece is almost, this piece is like another onion within an onion. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna slice it and I'm just gonna put it at the bottom.
Yep. So now we're gonna start stuffing. So you're grabbing an eggplant, I'm gonna grab a squash.
Right.
And you take it and you see there's the little hole from when we cored it earlier, and you just stuff it just like this. You don't want it to be stuffed to the very top because the rice will still expand.
So the way my mom taught me is you put your pinky in here and it needs to be empty to your first knuckle.
Yeah.
Don't ask me, this is how I was taught.
We're very not technical. This is just how you learn. You learn from different techniques like that. So
from generation to generation, this is how it came down.
Exactly.
So
once we roll some of the squash and the eggplant and get a nice layer going, we're gonna show you how to roll the warak, which is the grape leaves. Okay, so now we're gonna show you how to roll the warak. When we're taking it out of the water, we try and keep the leaves as straight as possible so that there's less work later, because you want to lay them out flat. And what's really important is that, so like there's a smooth side here and then a rougher side where you can really see the veins clearly. This is what you want on the inside so that the outside looks pretty and smooth. So this is going to be flattened. And this is a pretty good medium-sized leaf. So you want to take about a tablespoon, I'd say that's about a tablespoon of rice, of the rice mixture. You do not want to overstuff them because they can burst while they're cooking, and then it'll make the whole pot just, there will be rice all over. So let's do that again kind of slowly. You want to really roll it like a burrito.
So I remember when my parents used to do this, my father used to sit next to my mom and separate the leaves for her so she's not working, taking them apart.
I think I used to do that for you too.
Right, so this way, all we're concentrating on is rolling the leaves.
Yeah, and I remember when I was a kid growing up, my mom used to tell me to arrange them on the side of the pot. The middle would be empty, but I would be separating them all around the pot so that they're just, everything is separated and easy to work with. So let's do this kind of slowly now.
Okay.
So we have the leaf out just like this.
This is the meat.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of the stuffing, no big deal. Take the stuffing and you want to roll it kind of into a log, and see she's taking away what is going to be too much, what will overstuff. And it looks like a little bit compared to the whole leaf, but it's working.
It's right, so it'll double.
It's going to double, right. So you want to layer it flat and kind of tuck it underneath tightly.
And then I take each side and I roll it in.
And
then
see how she's tucking it tightly? And then you roll it just like that. Just like a burrito, but a much smaller burrito. So we're gonna continue doing that until this plate is full. We're gonna arrange them in the pot and then we will show you how to cook it. So now my mom is going to show you how to stuff the onions. So you take a larger amount of meat and you put it in the rounded part and you roll it really, really tightly. You're not going to fold in the edges.
you can't.
Yeah, there's no way to do that, but you just, it leaves an indent where you need to put the rice, just naturally.
Just like this.
And we did actually end up needing to make more stuffing because we ran out. And with mahshi, it's hard to get the measurement right, but you would rather end up with more stuffing that you can cook separately. You would cook this just like normal rice. But you'd rather have more of that than be left with a whole bunch of hollowed out vegetables. So you definitely need extra stuffing. So we're gonna do that, fill the pot. All of our warak is rolled and we're gonna put those in the little crevices between all the big vegetables. And then we'll cook it and then we'll eat it. So the pot of mahshi is ready. I've stuffed everything. There was actually no leftover rice, but if there were, you could cook it just like normal rice. So now we're gonna just put a little bit of salt on top.
We're gonna sprinkle it.
Yep, just slightly.
Just slightly.
To kind of flavor the pot.
And this is, how many ounces? I don't have my glasses.
This is just a 14 ounce. So to this, we're gonna add, we have a 15 ounce can of tomato sauce. You can hear Nadia, but we're gonna add about half of this right on top.
Just like this.
Maybe a little more than half.
2/3.
Yeah, about 2/3. Plus some water to thin it all out because it is rice in there, so it needs to cook.
The rice and the meat has to cook, so
Right.
they'll be steaming. So we've got about 4 cups of water. One of the things we do is we put a glass plate in there.
As long as it's heat proof. I use the Corelle plates and that works perfectly fine too.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna cover it.
So the plate that's in there is gonna keep everything intact. It's gonna be
Right.
sure that not everything moves.
It will not boil and start bubbling over.
So everything is in the pot and intact. That plate is keeping it so that nothing inside moves. We have it on medium heat. It looks like low, but the gas burner kind of cooks things a little bit quicker. But we're gonna cook this for about 45 minutes. Then you can kind of taste the top ones to see if it's fully cooked and to your liking. We will see you in 45 minutes. We're ready to flip. Moment of truth. We have our pot here filled. It's hot and it's heavy. So you're gonna need a big, huge serving platter, or if you're making a small amount, you just want something that will cover completely the pot that you cooked everything in. Otherwise, it can risk falling all over the place. By doing it like this, you're more likely to ensure that it will stay in one pile. So, who's gonna flip? I think my dad's gonna come and flip. 1, 2, ta-da! Salib. Ooh, beautiful. Look at the inside of the pot. Barely anything there. This looks delicious. Take a few pieces of warak. And look at that warak. It's so soft. The onions, just everything looks beautiful. All the colors. Okay. Here, ready?
I'm ready.
So good. This, my mom made a good point. This is kind of like our Sunday night meal, the way Italians have sugo or their pasta sauce. This is like our comfort food. It's made in the spring, even though it's kind of like a stew and it's hot, but because the zucchini and the vegetables that we use are abundant in the spring and summer, this is when we make it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is very traditional, and I know this is the kind of video that you guys like to see. There will be a lot more coming, and hopefully I'll be able to film more with my parents while I'm out here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Give this a try, and you can find all the ingredients and the directions on my blog in the description down below. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and thanks for watching.
Good job.
Thanks. You too, Mom. You did
you.
most of the work.